Audi has just dropped the new Audi A6 Avant, and is it an improvement? Do you want me to give you my honest answer, or do you want me to tell you that this is a cool design because it's the new Audi A6 Avant? Well, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you know what I think about this when we jump into Photoshop in a minute. I'm going to compare it, of course, to the previous generation from front, side, and rear, and also the interior, of course. But before we do that, check out this video from Audi design team themselves. Let's see what they, what their ideas were when they were designing this car from scratch here.
It all starts with the proportion. We have the big wheels, we have the long wheelbase, the hood, the front, very prestigious, and then we have this flat and stretched cabin, which is giving the car a very progressive attitude. At the front, it all starts with a single frame. We created a shape which is very unique. We have the rings sitting a little bit higher, so the car looks always very proud. The confidence comes from the sleek headlights sitting slightly above, and then these vertical air curtains on the side, they are helping us to show the status of this car. We wanted to create something very special for the rear. It has these typical Audi full surfaces with the rings sitting up high, and then something very special are the rear lights. For the first time in splitting them, so you have the top part with those eyes where the OLED functions are really showed as jewelry, and at the bottom, the more technical part. This gives a very, very unique feature to this car.
I like the rear end a lot.
The new Audi A6 Avant is all about elegance and dynamics. And in the interior, you can...
Then we come to the interior. And
entering the A6 as a driver, you will see that everything is perfectly arranged around you. The digital stage in front of you is a reinterpretation of the Audi typical driver orientation. And because of its thin execution, it also seems to float. The comfortable and high-quality materials create a space which is warm and personal. We call it the software.
The software?
We want you to feel comfortable and in control, whatever you do. In the Audi A6,
cool.
The driver has the digital stage, while the co-driver can interact with the passenger infotainment display. Thanks to the active privacy mode, the co-driver can watch a movie during the trip without disturbing the driver.
I don't know. I kind of get it, but at the same time, I don't get
Creating the A6 Avant was for us such a beautiful challenge. We have a very unique design language, and that's what we wanted to improve. So Audi's past was our inspiration. We wanted all these perfect shut lines, all these crisp lines together with the soft tension of the surfaces. We really believe the fusion of all these elements creates strong character for the A6 Avant.
All right, so as I said, I'm going to jump in Photoshop later on and show you exactly what I think about this compared to the previous generation A6. But before we do that, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver. I'm going to link it down, of course, in the description. Let's see what this A6 is all about. So, the handsome new Audi A6 Avant previous next generation sedan for the US. Of course, we're still not getting wagons here in the United States. I don't understand why. Why, Audi? You can just give it a shot, because you did send over the RS6 Avant for the previous generation, and that sold like crazy. So bring over more wagons to all European manufacturers. Now let's just see how it goes. And I think they're gonna be pleasantly surprised by the sales if they decide to do that. So should be joined by a sedan later this year. You have a turbocharged 3-liter V6 producing 362 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. Features a 48-volt electric assistance as well. Now the cabin here features a 14.5-inch touchscreen, an 11.9-inch digital gauge cluster, and an optional 10.9-inch screen for the front passengers, okay? We have a lot of screens in here. That's just the bottom line. And it's nothing new. And I'm never going to like it. I'm never going to adjust to it. I'm never going to say that I'm a fan of it. But that's just what we get. So while the new Audi A6 Avant won't be sold in the United States, at least not in the non-RS or all-road forms. It should also, I mean, if they want to bring wagons over here, bring the all-road versions over here. Because, I don't know, as soon as you put some black cladding on a wagon here, Americans think it's an SUV, and they all of a sudden just become interested in it, and they started buying it. So Allroad and also Volvo don't cancel the cross-country versions here, the V90, I do believe, and the V60 as well. So sedan will shortly follow and carry many of the same upgrades as Europe's Avant. At first glance, the new A6 Avant doesn't look like a radically new design. To me, it actually kind of does in the front end. The gaping maw up front is composed of boomerang-shaped elements and is sandwiched by a large vent that directs air around the side of the car. And then you have these deep indentations in the hood. It's starting to look a little bit BMW-ish, and what I mean by that is starting to look a little bit static to me. I don't like those indentations that we have in the hood for this specific A6. There are a couple of things in the front end that I just want to see redesigned here. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you also have, of course, the headlights are adorned with the intricate LEDs that Audi has become known for. Under the hood, you have 3 powertrains, which probably only one is going to get be sold here in the States. You have the turbocharged 2-liter inline-4 base engine, 201 horsepower. You also have a turbocharged 2-liter diesel with also 201 horsepower. And then you have this 3-liter 6-cylinder, 362 horsepower. Just a massive bump in power for this 6-cylinder compared to before. And then you have while the gas 2-liter only drives the front wheels, you need 8.3 seconds 0 to 60. And for the V6, it does 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. So it's not a slow vehicle with the V6, this thing. You also have the electric power, allows the A6 Avant to run on electric power while driving slowly, such as in traffic or when parking. It can also take over for short bursts when coasting and can supply an extra 24 horsepower and 170 pound-feet of torque. Now, this will be offered with rear-wheel steering when you have the all-wheel drive available, and this is obviously a vehicle you want to have pretty much every single Audi with the Quattro all-wheel drive. To me, that is such a big part of Audi's brand and who they are. Like, I always want to have Audis be Quattros if I would ever to buy an Audi. So adaptive air suspension is also available, and buyers can also opt for a Quattro Sport rear differential to make the rear end a little bit more agile. Now, the cabin here. So comparing this to what Audi used to have just a year ago, some of the best looking interiors in the business, specifically the gauge cluster with the map, with the configurations, everything was 100% configurable, beautifully laid out, and now, unfortunately, they fell into this trap to have just massive screens in the interior. Unfortunate. It is unfortunate because I don't want to see every single car be like this. And we talked about the sizing here as well. You have a head-up display optional and a dedicated 10.9-inch screen for the passenger, which, again, as I said in the beginning, I sort of get why maybe the passenger want to have a TV if they're bored or something. You know, they're on a long road trip. You don't want to bother the driver. It's pretty nice to have the passenger, if they want to, just put on YouTube or Netflix or whatever. But the integration of the screens is not good in this case. The driver can also adjust exterior lighting, choosing from 7 different light signatures. Pricing will start at about $61,000, and I'm not sure if that is the base 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder. Hopefully the 6-cylinder here. So with that said, let's jump straight into Photoshop here and let's have a look at this design. So on the left side we do have the new one. On the right side I do believe this is a 2019 model right here when this one came out. It is a sport package for the blue one. You can see that with this silver trim down here, and also the wheel design. We do have different front ends, and we also have more of an aggressive diffuser. But the key thing that I don't like about Audis today is the front end, because I think, first of all, the grille. Look at the grills here compared to the 2019. How sort of it felt proportionally correct to have the grille like this. It's also very chiseled, very Audi, single frame. And now in the new one, look at how stretched out, first of all, this is. So we have it going all the way down to the very, very bottom of the front end. We don't have any sort of body work in between here. And then you can see how this grille now, it feels like this grille is pushing outwards, like pressing all the other graphic features, just stretching out the face of the front end and not giving the rest of the key elements enough space to breathe within the front end. And then we have this area here. We talked about this. I do think it was the new Q5 that I said the exact same thing. This thing sticks up way too high up here. Same thing here. It feels like it presses up against the eyeball of the Audi because this is the only thickness that we have. That sort of, it feels like the cheekbones of the Audi is just pressing up the face into the eyeballs of the Audi here, and it doesn't look comfortable to me. It looks like the front end is under a lot of tension here, and I want to drop that tension and remove that tension by dropping this height, for example, have it sit a little lower like this, give the eyeball space in between the key features, and then don't stretch out this grille too much. You also have it be a little bit lower or shorter, not as tall. So we have a body work down here, body color down here, to have it be not a just big whole facade in the front end. We want to have it be framed by the body itself, and now we don't really have that framing in the front end of this new Audi. The headlights themselves, I do like the design of the headlights themselves. You would just take this element by itself and separate it from everything else, but how everything is implemented here. And this front end is sort of a symbol of what's going on to me in the interior as well, with all the big screens that just takes up way too much space in my opinion. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. Now looking at this, do you see how this is like it's just a calmer front end to me, a more dignified front end. There is nothing that feels that it's under 10. Everything feels like it's exactly where it's supposed to be. One single line right here, for example, goes down, nice framing, connects to the grille. We have a nice parallel line down here for the key graphics in the lower section, and this feels like such a beautiful design. And you can see that this area here is much less tight than it is in the new one, where it sticks up too far here, and also round edges on everything combined with some sharp corner. It just does not work for me. I think this one is so much more composed in the front end design than the new Audi A6, but of course that is just my opinion. Now looking at the side view looks decent for the new A6. I like what's going on here. As the designer said, they wanted to play around with some key sharp features or key sharp lines that you can see, for example, right here in the shoulder line, creating a muscle over the rear axle. We also have a muscle in the front axle, and then we have this typical Audi line in the bottom. I do like this line because it has a connection to what's going on in the bumper. You can see we can create one single line, but it doesn't have a connection to the front end because these intakes and the grille, they just stretch too far down in the front end, which means that we can't, unfortunately, have this one single line that wraps around the car. The wheels look great. Do not want to have them being black, though. Other than that, I would like to have them being maybe, as always, personally, I'm a simple guy when it comes to wheel design. I just want to have some gunmetal, maybe in some cases some bronze, touch of bronze in there. I just don't want to have them be black every single time I see a new car, because I can't appreciate the design of the spokes. Looking at the overall proportions here, of course, a long roof sloping down, looking beautiful. And we have this very raked rear end, extremely raked, and a properly defined bumper as well, with some line flow going down here at the bottom. Looking at the old one, which one do I prefer when it comes to side view? I'm not entirely sure. I think both of them look pretty good, to be honest. We still have this line at the lower section here that has this connection to what's going on in the bumper as well on the previous generation, looking nice. The wheels look decent as well, and look at that, we have some silver wheels. What a refreshing sight that is. And then we have this greenhouse. I kind of like when the S models have a little bit of, or S-Line or whatever these are called, the Sport Line, has a little bit of silver in the windows and the greenhouse like this. It reminds me of the old RS models and S models that also had that back in the day. Now looking at the rear end, this is by far my favorite view for the new A6. I think the rear end looks pretty great, to be honest. It looks very cool because we have this new light bar that is separated from the key elements of the taillights up top, and then it looks like, I don't think these are lights down here. daytime running lights. I think this might just be, I could be wrong. I have to look at the video to see what these are, if it's just texture or if it's actually light. And look at the integration of the diffuser. I like what's going on here because this looks very interesting to me. It looks like just some added pieces for the sake of just styling. It doesn't really have a function, and I like to see that when we have these type of textures here, for example, in this diffuser. The diffuser itself looks pretty decent, to be honestly. We have dual exhaust pipe. Thankfully, exhaust pipes are coming back, becoming more visible in just everyday cars, and I like to see that. I do love when we have visible exhaust pipes. Then you have the wiper here. I wish the wiper in this case for $60,000 feels like a more upscale model. And when it will come up to that price range, I want to have this be hidden underneath this roof spoiler that we have up top. But the overall graphics positioning, compare this to the front end, which looks super tight and tense, and then you have the rear end looking beautiful. This is a proper, Audi design to me, with the graphics exactly where I want to see them. Give room in between the elements in the rear end, something that we don't see in the front. But still, I have to say, the 2019 model, in my opinion, is just so clean, and definitely prefer this styling. I think car design today is probably becoming a little bit too complex for my taste, personally. I think there is too much going on, and I think there is sort of like a shouting match, or whatever you call it, like between manufacturers. How vulgar in some cases can we make our new designs just to make them stand out and not necessarily, be beautiful anymore? You can see just how stunning this rear end is, and the design overall. The surfacing, the line flow, everything has a nice fluidity to it, and everything is extremely simple, and all the key features has a connection to what's going on in the sheet metal of the bodywork. You can see that here, for example, a line going down into the taillight. So we have a connection between everything, and it's a beauty to see designs like this. And then you have this lower section, also beautiful, simple diffuser in the lower section right there. Now, last but not least, I'm gonna be real quick here when it comes to the interiors, because I talked about these so many times before. The thing I don't understand here, if we remove the screens, remove them altogether, just don't think about them, then this interior looks very, very nice. It looks clean. Not a huge fan of this gloss plastic that Audi's been using for the past 5 years or so. Would want to see some more matte finishes there. But if we remove the screens, I think it's a beautiful interior. But then when we add the screens in here, what is going on with the outlines of these screens? Like, we have some sort of curvature here going down, and then we have this angle of the passenger screen. You can see the two angles here. This is what I'm talking about. It doesn't feel like it's well integrated in the design, and it feels like just separated screens that they bought from different stores and just slapped them together into this one single interior, and hopefully, it would end up looking good. But it doesn't look good. Looking at the old one here, this is the gauge cluster I was talking about. When you have full customization, you have even two caps for this. You have this top cap, which stretches out very far and definitely covers everything in the gauge cluster. No glare whatsoever in this design. And then you have this inner cap as well with a silver trim, looking beautiful. Just a stunning design. Again, a lot of gloss plastic here, as you can see. I wasn't a fan of these panels of just gloss plastic. But you have an infotainment screen here. And even though you don't have the physical knobs and buttons for the gauge climate settings, it was still respected enough to put it in a separated screen all the way down here, which is it's fine for me. I do prefer the physical buttons, of course, but this interior was some of the best interiors Audi, in my opinion, has ever made. And now, unfortunately, they jumped on the wagon and just slapped 3 massive screens into the interior. Let me know what you think about this new A6 in the comments below. I want to hear your opinions of this. Do you prefer the old one or the new one? Let me know in the comments below.